looking ahead to Alabama, what
Yeah.
type of defensive, offensive schemes would you employ against the Tide, and how do you think Bama will play us?
I think, let me answer that backwards. I think that they're going to initially rely on the run, but they're going to run to set up the pass. And I think that they are going to trust Bryce Young, their 5-star freshman, who's going to start super freshman, sophomore, whatever year he is, second-year player, who's going to be their starting quarterback this year. Dynamic runner, but a very, very, very good passer from Mater Dei High School out in LA. That's the high school where basically you win the starting job at Mater Dei, you go to USC, you win that starting job, you might win a Heisman, you go to the NFL. That's that program. He went to Alabama instead. So I know that I think that they're going to go to the pass in some non-standard situations because they're going to trust him to make plays, because Nick Saban is not in the business of like really holding the reins back on a first-time starter. If you remember when Brad Kaya started his first game at Louisville, we gave him the original Tecmo Bowl offense or offensive playbook, because it was like up in A, down in A, up in B, down in B. You had like 4 or 5 plays. Very predictable, very controlled situation. I don't think that they're going to do that. I think that they're going to be aggressive with him and let him start to build his legacy and show what he can do, for one. But like I said, they're going to run, and they're going to run it, and they're going to run it. And they have a bunch of great running backs. They got a massive and athletic offensive line, even with new guys there. And it's really going to be – that's going to be a challenge, because the last couple of times that we saw Miami's run defense, it was not great. Reference the North Carolina game where they're still running counter and still just running through, around, and over everybody on our defense. So we're going to have to cowboy up. That means we're going to have to bring guys from the second level down. We're going to have to really sell out against that run, because it's imperative just to do that, to try to get them, if not behind the chains, at the chains. Not second and 1, because then the whole playbook is open. We got to get them in second and third and medium and long, if possible. So scheme-wise on defense, and I'm not the biggest scheme guy, for one. Yeah, we're just going to have to – Manny is calling the defense again, which means we're going to be more aggressive than when Blake Baker was here. He's very good at calling up defensive back blitzes. He's very good at some of those things, but he will also go to that at some inopportune times. I personally would like to see Miami play more man-to-man in the back end, but with what Alabama has done and developed a wide receiver over the course of all of the time that Miami has lost these wide receivers to Alabama, and all the names, the Judys, the Ridleys, the Amari Coopers, all these guys, I don't know that I have anybody that I'm comfortable putting man-to-man on the island with them. Even a Tyreek Stevenson, I think, is going to be really good for us. So at some part, that means we got to play some cover 2, cover 4, maybe cover 3 zone. But Miami zone, been Swiss cheese when we go zone in passing situations. And Alabama's very good, and they will go run when you go to drop zone, and they'll just run over you. So you got to pick your battles, and you got to go on defense. And, if we're going man-to-man and they take it up top, all right. But we cannot let them nickel and dime us down the field. And I don't even think that they will, because they're a team that'll turn nickels and dimes into dollars and $5 and $20 bills. So you can't do that. On offense, you got to be who you are. You got to leverage the zone read game. You got to leverage the RPO game. De'Aaron King is going to have to make a couple plays where plays were not there to be made. Tight ends are going to be a big part, because the interior of the defense, I think, is something where with Will Mallory and Elijah Arroyo, we can take advantage of that. And some receiver's going to have to make a play somewhere. The other thing that was a previous comment down here, which is so key, Miami actually has the most returning starts experience all along the offensive line in the country of any FBS team. Now, yeah, you're bringing in Justice Oluwasun from UNLV. You have all these guys who have been here for years. The experience is there. You gotta work it out. That line of scrimmage got to go forward. It can't go backwards. Or if it's a passing situation, that pocket has to be set. So no, you're not going to push forward on a pass blocking set. But that pocket needs to just be there as a perfect horseshoe, and it's not collapsing. We're not getting guys who are swimming through, and Alabama's a great team. They have incredible players, and you're going to get some pressure sometimes. You know what I mean? But if this game and this season depends so much on this offensive line, and we've talked about them for years of growth and development in terms of technique, in terms of the five together, in terms of physical growth and strength individually. This is the time. If it's going to happen, this is the time. So I need to see that with Donaldson back into the 330s or 320s for weight instead of 360, 70, 80. Zion Nelson, who people in the draft world are talking about as a potential first-round draft pick. I don't necessarily see that from him, but hey, prove me wrong. But the main thing is whatever scheme you want to do, you have to have the offensive line to provide the holes in the running game and the time in the passing game. And I can talk about so many other things. You want to run slip screens. You want to go at tempo. And I still think that Miami needs to go more at tempo. Again, I've said it for years, even with Rhett Lashley. If you go at tempo, that means no huddle on the ball. If you do that 3 more snaps a quarter, that's 12 snaps a game. More at tempo than whatever number you're running, right? 3 more per quarter. Boom, boom, boom. That's 12 extra snaps at tempo per game. That's going to wear them down on defense. And I know that they got a billion All-Americans and 5-stars over there, but that's what I would do. Especially if we get a chunk play, anytime you get a first down, on the ball, on the ball, on the ball, on the ball, that would be one of my main schematic things. But we're only going to be able to do that if the offensive line brings it. And truth be told, more than an X or more than an O, it's all about the Jimmies and the Joes and everybody on the Miami sideline, from the coaching staff to the water providers to the athletic trainers to the equipment staff to the players to the coaches, to everybody has to really play the game of their life coming up on September 4th. And I look forward to seeing that, and I hope that they're up to that challenge. But that's going to be the thing more for me that I would need to see to hopefully be competitive be competitive into the second half and take it from there.
So based on what you just stated on some of those sideline camera ISOs, I'm going to be watching for the water providers not to miss the player's mouth. They have to be on point. Everybody's going to be on point. Everybody.
Yeah, because if you scored it in their eye, then all of a sudden I'm dealing with the contact thing, or if I miss that, but I need that hydration, you know what I mean? And not what are you doing? Everything has to be seamless, and it's like I've gotten obviously through the show on Netflix, but I've gotten back into and way into F1, Formula One. They're talking about tenths of seconds on pit stops. Oh, Verstappen had a 2.4 second. And he's out because, not Verstappen this year because he's going to win the championship. But an example, if somebody has a 2.5 second pit stop, 2.5 as opposed to 2.2, their day's done. 30 laps into a 70 lap race. It's over. We're going to just play for points. We're going to try for a different position. But in terms of the win, that 0.3 of a second now has cost me everything. That's the importance of it. That's the coordination that it takes for everybody to be out there. Wheel off, wheel on, zoom, zap, zoom. Every interaction during the Alabama game has to be like that. And I know that it sounds crazy. I know that you're watching me like, Cam, you're so over the top energetic. You are so enthusiastic. You are so, it's outsized. It's not that important. It has to be that important for this game. You know what I mean? This is not a game where we're going to, like UAB, what was that, last year, a couple years ago, we ran for 338. We're going to do this. They're not really going to beat us. They scored a touchdown, fine. But we're going to do what we're going to do, however we want to do it, and we're going to win, even if the way that we're doing everything is not at the peak of our optimization. That is not going to happen on September 4th. So you have to have that mindset. And I know it's like, okay, yeah, like a little bit of joke. No, it's not a joke. It has to be that kind of maniacal, singular focus. And if you're not in this, Tony Dungy, to play, to win the game, to have to strive for that kind of perfection, then you're not going to beat Alabama. Because there's a difference in talent on the roster. There's a difference in size. There's a difference in skill and a difference in experience and a difference in demonstrated performance on the field that you must overcome if you're the University of Miami to win this game. That's what it will take. This energy, this focus, this singular maniacal focus on perfection and nothing less. Alignment, assignment, technique. I need every single player, all 11 on the field, coming in, coming off. I need everybody, alignment, assignment, technique, every single play. And it has to be that kind of focus. And if it's not, then it's going to be like that Georgia Tech game a couple of years ago when DJ Ivey is sitting there and he's not fully focused and the wide receiver or the gunner on punt goes screaming by him and the punter drops it over the top for a touchdown. Because 10 guys were singularly focused, dialed in for the pursuit of perfection, and one guy was not. And that one guy is now on the Summer Jam screen, and we're talking about him because he gave up a touchdown on a throw from the punter. That is how quickly things can change and how thin the margins are, especially against, and I gave you an example against Georgia Tech, who's nobody's kind of good. You think that the margins aren't even smaller, infinitesimally small, when you're playing Alabama? That's what you have. That's what it has to be. This is not another game. This is not another Saturday. This is different. It's 3:30 Chick-fil-A kickoff in Atlanta against Alabama. This is a different kind of a game. And everybody on field and off has to have that kind of focus and dedication to the pursuit of perfection, else we lose and get blown out, period, before we even get in there. That's just that's how I see it.
That is one beautiful soliloquy that if I was going to clip it off and post it anywhere, of course, I wouldn't change anything except I would have my announcer just drop one little audio piece over your Tony Dungy with a Herm Edwards.
Yes, it was Herm.
But it's beautifully stated. Beautifully stated. I will add this as very conventional football wisdom. One thing that's unique about this game is it's the first game of the season. Therefore, you've got an entire offseason to game plan. Therefore, most coaching staffs, I would think, are looking at themselves. You have time to look at yourselves. And what do we do? And what are they seeing on tape? Okay, what can we do off of what we do that we've never shown before?
Yeah, it's interesting because this is not necessarily an empty the sink kind of a game, or the kitchen sink, like empty the cupboard, empty the playbook kind of a game. But it's way more. It's going to be way more dynamic and instead of vanilla, I think, than a normal opener would be. Because if you're playing, UAB or the sacrificial FCS team or whatever, you're running your staples. You might run something that's a little kind of connected play where you kind of zig instead of zag on the second time through or whatever, that you run that concept. But yeah, no, this is a game where you can definitely buck some trends and do some things that you would not otherwise do or have not otherwise shown. And hopefully in year two of the Rhett Lashley offense, particularly, you have the ability to really build off of some things that you put on film and say, okay, we've given the base play, we've given the first alternate and the second alternate to those. If you think especially of the De'Aaron King quarterback power, we've seen that run, we've seen that RPO, we've seen that Louisville Jalen Knighton leak out the sideline, gone. And it's on film. We've given 3 very distinct looks off of that action, off of that same exact set, that same exact formation, motion, all that stuff. So I've given you the primary, the initial alteration, and secondary alteration. I can now pivot off of that in all kinds of different ways, and maybe they do. So that's just one little thing in scheme. But yeah, I would expect from Miami particularly, because especially depending on the situation of the game, with little to lose, you can be more exotic. You know what I mean? Now, if it's 21-0 in the middle of the second quarter, you might go to Operation Shutdown a little bit because you don't want to get blown out. Been there, seen it against Florida State some years in the past, against Clemson in the ACC championship game, which was 35-3, but it could have been worse. And both teams with Kelly Bryant, they dialed back, and then Miami also dialed back the tempo and said, hey, we're going to try to keep this from getting to 58-0 again. And if things are getting away from you, I think you might see that. But if it's competitive, I mean, God forbid Miami has a lead. If Miami has a lead, then I'm still throwing haymakers. Because why not? You know what I mean? Now, I'm not going to be ridiculous with it, but if I have an opportunity for that, then yeah. So, I mean, I would expect to see something. I would expect and hope to see a new wrinkle or 3 in this game from Miami.
And the other thought is that unless you're a traditional Wisconsin team that would have, even against a really good team or really good defense, have an advantage in the run game, let's say, for example, the one position on the offense that always has an advantage over the same or the opposing position on defense is wide receiver, defensive back. So if your offensive line is at a certain place versus their defensive line, that's an even matchup. On and on and on. You can go to every level. But the one place, follow me here, is that even elite defensive backs have difficulty covering decent wide receivers because it's just the nature of the two positions and how difficult it is to play that position against a wide receiver. Therefore, you've got an advantage there. So going back to the offensive line, if they can give Eric King that extra beat that he needs and he's on point, then the passing game is obviously where you create big yardage even against a better opponent.
Yeah, I mean, obviously you're going to get more chunks in the passing game. And Nick Saban's a defensive back, legendary defensive back coach. They do pattern matching, at Alabama for their defensive backs. So you try to have the defense match the patterns that the splits and the scenario would have you assume, basically, by the physical keys. And you can look up those pieces. There's plenty of pieces on the interwebs about pattern matching defense. So they will try to take some of the guesswork out by giving that structure. But yeah, if you're going to try to find space, then I think it'll be in the passing game, which again is why one of the first things I said was talking about the tight ends, because I think that you could even find more of an advantage tight end versus linebacker than you can wide receiver versus their defensive backs. But that's me.
And then also to play off of your point about the pace of the game and the tempo of the game, unfortunately, this is not Alabama 2011, because for as great and dominant and full of NFL players as they were going to play a certain conservative type offense that wasn't going to produce 1 million points unless you were just so bad defensively. So you could be like, okay, let's try to drag this game into the fourth quarter, take the air out of the ball, because they're probably not going to run away from us, but that's not the way they run offense anymore.
Right. But I mean, even still, not talking about their offense, but I think that for our offense to have an advantage against their defense, and I think that for our offense to have an advantage against, or continue to have advantages against other defenses, that's where I would like to see more tempo. That was not, and I've talked about it on here. We can go back, and I wish that, we had an extra outside producer be like, hey, drop the clip in from here, there, and everywhere over these 160-something episodes of all the times I've talked about doing and running at tempo. This is not a new thing, and this is not insular to this game. But I think that continuing to do that and have that and add that little wrinkle in will be advantageous, can be advantageous for Miami, assuming the proper performance of that offense to then get the situation where going at tempo is a thing to happen.